Getting excited. We've been doing worship team workshops, and I'm getting excited for the next steps in that. I know a lot of us have participated in that, particularly our young folks, and so that will be exciting coming into the fall, I believe. And this summer, we're trying to really just kind of dig into the spaces. And so it's maybe a bit more of a mature talk. And this is what I mean. Today, I'm going to give you some data points to start, okay? And where's our scientists? All data is not good, right? Like, not all of it's accurate. Not all of it you can create, theories and hypotheses off, because sometimes they're one-offs, right? But they're data points. They're information. Each one of us going through this world every day, we are getting information. I'm going to share some data points today that aren't new, and I'm not supporting the data points. Do you understand what I'm saying? I'm simply saying, what do we do with these data points? Because it's important that we start to think about some of these things, because the whole service today, and I did not know this, is gearing towards exactly this thing, which is amazing. It's the Spirit of God. All of the songs, everything. But let's look at the state of creation, okay? And how do we interpret the data that's going around right now? There's lots of data. Yes? Lots of it. And some of this may or may not give you anxiety, right? And anxiety is simply this. Anxiety is born from a lack of control, a lack of having power, a lack of order. That's where anxiety comes from, yes? Now, some of us take these data points and we just absorb them as such, and we just have anxiety for that. Some of us, and this is not any better, and I want to make this really clear today, take these things that we're anxious about and then we just disregard them and make them all part of a conspiracy, and then we feel comfortable about it. With really what we're doing is putting our fingers in our ears and saying, none of this is real. And then we feel better about it. But it doesn't change that these data points are there and we need to deal with them. So how do we deal with data points and become, okay and not anxious and not ignorant? Where is the balance and how do we find it? So I just give you some data points, okay? And I'm not saying, once again, I'm not even standing on the accuracy of them. I literally just took them from headlines. Because you're all receiving these data points, whether you kind of like them or not, all right? All right, how about this? Hurricanes are moving more slowly and becoming more destructive. Just a data point. Just a data point. I'm not supporting it. I'm just saying these are statements. Particularly, right, and there's going to be a divide here today. There's going to be our younger people who are going to be like, yeah, climate change. And there's going to be some older people in here, I'm sorry. And you're going to be like, it's all bogus. The world's oceans are warming at a higher rate than before. Okay? Now, this is the point about data, yes? We draw conclusions from the data. So we're not drawing a conclusion right now. We're just acknowledging that this is data, input. Okay? Soot from wildfires and higher heat, right? There's more glacial melt. Is that good or bad? I don't know. I'm just saying it's there. Okay? On July 24th, this July, okay, the Earth set a record for the hottest day ever. And then broke it one day later. And this is the worst summer on record for the Great Barrier Reef in terms of coral die-off. Okay, this is just data. It's just data. Okay? To deny that it is real isn't going to help us grow in our faith. To live in fear over it is not going to help us grow in our faith. So what do we do with it? I'm just asking these guys, what do we do with it? Because let me be really clear. You can throw out all of the different things that you think skew these things, and some things do. There are certainly people trying to profit off of fear, okay? In our world, profiting off of fear is the greatest profit you can have, because if you make someone scared enough and you have a solution for it, they'll pay for it. Okay? However, I grew up in the state of Colorado, just like really in Denver metro area, and my grandfather, when he was a child, went ice skating at Washington Park. And now, if you went to Washington Park, you would drown. So something has changed. So can we be enough clear about that this world is changing? Now, we can try these trigger words like climate change and all these other things, and we can be upset about them, but can we at least be honest enough to realize that, listen, when I moved up here, there weren't summers where I could hardly breathe. Now there are pretty regularly. Things are happening. To ignore that doesn't allow us to show the greatness of God. Can I just say that real quick? We can't speak God into places of fear by saying these things don't exist. We're not even showing God. How do we show and live in God in these spaces? Now let's look at the state of the world today. Okay? Governments, wars. Any of that stuff give you a little bit of anxiety? The way governments are rolling, the people that are in power, the people that might be in power. I'm going to read you a report. This is a report. These are just data points. And I'm reading these because I think we need to understand that the people around us are reading these. Sometimes this isn't about you. And I think we spend too much time trying to make us feel okay with these data points. But that's not our role as Christians. Our role as Christians is to interpret this data in such a way that others won't live in fear. Oh, good job. You denied it till it doesn't exist, and you're able to move forward with your life, and nobody's coming any closer to Jesus. It's not about you. So these are data points. So there's a report. The world has entered an era of increasing instability as countries around the globe boost military spending in response to Russia's invasion over Ukraine, the Hamas attack on Israel, and China's growing assertiveness in the South China Sea. That's the conclusion of a new report by this place called the Strategic Studies. There's tensions in the Arctic, North Korea's pursuit of nuclear weapons, the rise of military regimes in Sahel region of Africa is contributing to a deteriorating security environment. The current military security situation heralds what is likely to be a more dangerous decade, characterized by the brazen applications by some of military power to pursue claims, evoking a might-is-right approach, as well as the desire among like-minded democracies for stronger bilateral and multilateral defense ties in response, the report said. Global defense spending rose 9% overall and over 20% in actually NATO nations, which is crazy, to $2.2 trillion last year. As Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine now entering its third year, heightened concerns. You guys realize that Russia and Ukraine are still at war? Because it kind of came out of the headlines because everybody kind of got sick of talking about it, right? So now we just ignore it. Heightened concerns that China and other militarily powerful states may try to impose their will on neighbors, the ISS, all of these things. So what's the big deal? Well, if you look at what they say, conflict and instability, what does that read? What does that rate? Political instability often leads to increased conflicts. Can we be real and say North America has some political instability? Both within and between nations. This can manifest as civil wars, terrorism, ethnic or religious tensions, and territorial disputes. The absence of stable governance structures can create power vacuum, resulting in the rise of armed groups and insurgencies. Economic uncertainty. Political instability can have a detrimental impact on the economy. It can discourage foreign investments, disrupt trade, and hinder economic growth. Which is a big deal for most of us because we're all about the money. Unstable governments may struggle to implement effective economic policies, resulting in inflation, unemployment, and poverty. The lack of economic opportunities can exacerbate social unrest and contribute to further instability. What do we do with these data points? Both the physical world, yes, and kind of the material governance world feels more unstable than ever. How do we as Christians, like God, and this is an important thing, not that we are God, but to reflect God's nature of being the same yesterday, today, and forever, how do we remain unwavering in an increasingly chaotic world? And so that is what the sermon is today about. It's about a city that doesn't shake and a people that doesn't quake. What do we do? How do we live without anxiety and fear? Today, I don't intend to speak for a long time, but every time I say that, it goes forever, so I intend to speak for a long time. We're going to stick with the sons of Korah in Psalm 46. Many of you have read it. Today, I hope that we can just get some things to pull out of this and walk in a way that will show others. But let's read it together. God is our refuge and strength, a very ready help in trouble. Therefore, we will not fear. Though the earth shakes and the mountains slip into the heart of the sea, though its waters roar and foam, though the mountains quake at its swelling pride. Deep breath. That's Selah. There is a river whose streams make the city of God happy, the holy dwelling places of the Most High. God is in the midst of her. She will not be moved. God will help her when morning dawns. The nations made an uproar. The kingdoms tottered. He raised his voice. The earth quaked. The Lord of armies is with us. The God of Jacob is our stronghold. Deep breath. Come, behold the works of the Lord, who has inflicted horrific events on the earth. He makes wars to cease to the end of the earth. He breaks the bow and cuts the spear in two. He burns the chariot with fire. Stop striving and know that I am God. I will be exalted among the nations. I will be exalted on the earth. The Lord of armies is with us. The God of Jacob is our stronghold. I probably don't have to preach anymore, but I want to just tear it apart a minute. Verses 1 through 3, let's start right there. Today, I really feel like this is an encouragement to us to go out a little bit different. To practice serenity now. I'm laughing. Some of you understand, some of you don't. I won't promote what I'm laughing about. God is our refuge and strength, a very ready help in trouble. This is the answer to the rest of this, just by the way. God is our refuge and strength, a very ready help in trouble. Okay? That's the answer to the rest of just when we talk about climate change and a physical world. And when I say physical world, I mean all that's created, which would include your body, your mind. The psalmists talk about a world that feels like it's chaotic, and they're hearkening back, actually, in all of this to creation, just so you know. I'm going to help you understand what they're saying. They're saying, you know, before God, everything was chaos. And now it feels like chaos. But listen, God is a very ready help. They're hearkening back to the truth of creation. Let's look at Genesis 1. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. But before he did that, there was chaos. And the earth was a formless and desolate emptiness. And darkness was over the surface of the deep. And the Spirit of God was hovering over. Listen, actually, if you'll just step back for a minute and think about that, there is no order. It is chaotic. It is dark. It's scary. As my kids say, scary. That's scary. But then God said, let there be light, and there was light. God said, let this chaos come to an end. And he created order. God saw that the light was good, and God separated the light from the darkness. God called the light day, and the darkness he called night, and there was evening, and there was morning, one day. There was no days, there was no light, there was no order, then there was God. You hearing it? So, the earth rages. But God brings order. I'm going to help you understand this. As this world goes on, we're going to find that this world feels more and more like chaos. Why? Jeremiah 4, God makes a prophecy through Jeremiah the prophet that I believe speaks forward all the way to the end. It says in Jeremiah 4, verse 23, I looked at the earth, and behold, it was a formless and desolate emptiness. Wait, it had returned to chaos, disorder, and to the heavens, and they had what? Okay, I want you to, listen, this is big deal. I looked on the mountains, and behold, they were quaking, and all the hills jolted back and forth. I looked, and behold, there was no human, and all the birds of the sky had fled. I looked, and behold, the fruitful land was a wilderness, and all its cities were pulled down before the Lord, before his fierce anger. So what I want you to just understand, before God, there was chaos. After God, there was order. When God is removed from your life and from this world, listen very carefully, there is chaos. There is desolation. There is fear. Without God, things fall apart. You guys, I need you to understand something. My favorite science, sorry, Paula, my favorite science is physics. The reason I love physics is because physics is a different kind of science. I actually love zoology, all that stuff, to be honest with you. But the reason I'm so taken by physics is because physics just looks at the world and then just says, this is what happens, right? Instead of trying to kind of take the data and then create something out of it, which is often how we get things like the theory of evolution, which is now a fact, apparently. I don't know. And in physics, there's thermodynamics. And thermodynamics, the laws of thermodynamics, to me, really mess with all of these other scientific realities that we try to, this is human beings trying to understand the data. Because in the law of thermodynamics, one of the great laws of thermodynamics is, what's entropy? No, what's entropy? Entropy, right? This is the idea that you don't gain energy or lose energy. It's just move from one place to the next. Why am I even talking about this? Okay, the Big Bang is against physics. You have to have an outside force creating more energy than existed before. It's unnatural. In other words, in its natural state, the Earth couldn't have a Big Bang. That's why you have all these theories about an asteroid coming to Earth. Because the physical realities of physics tell us that you can't create energy. So that's why even scientists have to acknowledge that something had to start this thing. Hear what I'm saying? Another law of thermodynamics is that all order leads to chaos. Hear me very carefully. To me, that declares the glory of God. Without God, you have chaos. How do you create order out of chaos? How do we have an evolution of species? This is just my thing. If all order leads to chaos. Just hear what I'm saying. This is why it doesn't make sense to me. But what does make sense to me is that God took chaos and created order. Then people sinned and brought chaos back into the world, and God had to step out. And now we are watching the order of God slowly but surely dissipate. It's half-life. If you guys know it, I'm just telling you, science declares the glory of God. Everything deteriorates. Without God, everything falls apart. So in your life, everything will fall apart. Listen, the world falling and going in, this is sin. This is the absence of God. It's not so much God's judgment on the earth as it is the earth's rejection of God's order. How do I stand firm in a world that is shaking? I know that God brings order in chaos. He's done it before. He will do it again. Brothers and sisters, let's be very clear about something, though. And I'm just telling you, it's these sorts of thoughts for me, this is a little aside, that does actually make me terrified of hell. Because when you remove God, forget about fire and being hot. all that's left is fear and uncertainty and anxiety and chaos and darkness. But it's clear even in this psalm, not that God necessarily stops the shaking, but he brings you help. See, I want to give you a picture because this is coming even out of what Pastor Lil John preached last week. I don't want us to get this idea that's different than what it is. God is our help in times of trouble. It doesn't say God is our help to end trouble. Just hear what I'm saying. Jesus in the garden, physically, his physical body falling apart. God ministered to him with angels. We have to start seeing ourselves like Noah. Not that we are Noah, but this is a better way of looking at it. The flood came and devastated things, and yet God helped Noah navigate the storm. That is the help we have in God. Not that this world will go back to some time where my grandfather will now be skating on the ice again, but that instead of drowning, God will provide a boat so I can float across. This is how we as Christians approach this reality. Brothers and sisters, the world is dying. The world needs a Savior, not just the world of people. This world, Paul says, it groans as it waits for the return of its Creator. God's not going to stop this until he stops it. You hear what I'm saying? So we bring comfort to those in fear by saying, I can't get you out of the storm, but I can get you in the boat. So, let's keep going. Got to be quick, right? I said quick. Psalm 46, 4 through 7. There's a simple, deep thing God's trying to do today. It shouldn't take long for us to get there. We're going to read a lot of scripture here and get through it. There's a river whose streams make the city of God happy, the holy dwelling places of the Most High. Let me speak to the dual purpose of this psalm real quick. This is also talking about the eternal city of God and Jerusalem at the same time. But know that what we are talking about, what our hope, why we're not anxious, is that there is an eternal city of God that will always have life. This is the river part of it. God is in the midst of her. She will not be moved. God will help her when morning dawns. This building's not susceptible to earthquakes. Like God creating order out of the natural chaos, this is a supernatural city that is not subject to the powers of this earth. God is in the midst of her. She will not be moved. God will help her when morning dawns. This is a key little piece here for a minute. I'm going to stop here for a minute. Why is this morning dawns thing such a big deal? I'll tell you why. Because that is when the army strikes. Okay? In the ancient world, yes, they gather, they got everybody there, and this is the terrifying reality of war in ancient times. You can see them, literally see them, because you can't just drone them. You know what I mean? So you have to get close. So you're in your city looking at this army and going, yikes. Here's our problem, brothers and sisters, is that too often we don't even want to see that there is an army, and there is. We have to see that the world is shaking. Our governments are shaking. Powers are trying to fill vacuums. These things are happening. And, believe it or not, yes, they want to assail every power, including God. So they are lining up. But when they go to strike, God puts an end to it. Do you hear what I'm saying? Hey, it's not that we will be, listen, there is going to be angst and anxiety. There is going to be things happening around us. Governments are going to shake. There's going to be wars. We're not going to be out of that. It's going to get heated. Hear me? Let's be honest with each other. Going to get heated. But before that city is ever taken, God will intervene. Now, how will he intervene? The nation's made an uproar. Like, this is such a to me, this is drama. This is a psalm full of drama. You have to see it happen. All right? You got to see it happen. You got to do Lord of the Rings kind of stuff. If you haven't seen, get the Lord of the Rings. Look at all the armies, right? You got the dwarves. You got all these people. And they're right? Okay. We got that happening now. We got everybody around. And all the uproar, king. Wow, we're going to take people down. Look at what we did already. We took out this city and this city. We got this. We're doing this and blah, 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 blah. So then God stormed down. No. He said, stop it. That's the extent of what God needs to do to finish this thing. He raised his voice. The earth quaked. We got to understand this. Like, if you look across a time, you see empires rise and fall. It's like, hey, you guys, we have all of these history lessons, right? I'm getting nerdy today. All these history lessons, we try to explain why things happen, right? But Waterloo happened because God said enough. That's Waterloo. Nope. Napoleon, it's done. That's the end of your empire. I have used you to do what I have determined to do, and now you're done. That's it. Nope. Stop. Sit down. Time out. Right? That's it. And then the psalmist says, the Lord of armies is with us. The God of Jacob is our stronghold. Brothers and sisters, they're speaking back to chaos again just for a moment. I'm going to tell you that. Because Israel itself was formed out of chaos, yes? Think about it. They were pulled out of slavery. God pulled them out of chaos and darkness. You don't believe me? Hey, Moses tried to help him out before he tried to do it on his own strength, right? And so he killed an Egyptian that was beating an Israelite. And instead of hey, this guy's going to help us out, the next time something happened, they're like, I'll rat you out. It was chaos. It was chaos. God pulled them out. Brothers and sisters, this world, right? Because this is more relevant even to us. I want you to think about the state of this world when Jesus Christ came. God made a people that was not a people into a people. God breathed by his word, come on somebody, by his word created order in a world that was rapidly falling apart. He took this place of spiritual disorder and he created order through his word and created a people. If you don't see how sweet that is, there's just something wrong. We are the order out of chaos. We are the people of God, and that is our city. So you can shake all you want, you can quake all you want, you can storm all you want, you can go up and down, you can be a socialist, you can be a Democrat, you can be a Republican, you can be whatever you want to be, but at the end of the day, I'm going to a theocracy, and right when you think you're going to win, my daddy's just going to be like, no. No. And this Lord of Armies, it's translated a lot of different ways. But literally, it's Yahweh, right, which is an unspeakable word, so we can't even say Yahweh, but it's the best way to say it. Yahweh of armies. Why do I say this? Because we said it, God of angel armies, and he is. We say Lord of hosts, and he is. But you have to think even bigger than that. You have to think when it says that he is the Lord of armies, and this is what Golden Gay said, it's quite, I like it. It suggests that Yahweh is the embodiment of or controller of all war-making power in heaven and on earth. When we say that you are the Lord of armies, what we're saying is, oh, Russia, you look strong. Oh, Ukraine, you're getting helped out. The U.S. is magnificent. Blah, 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 blah. You are all subservient to God. Do you know what the greatest army in this world is? It's a demonic one. Do you know what happened when that demonic army, which is more powerful than nuclear weapons, BT Dubs, what that happened when that demonic army tried to assail the city of God? Do you know what God did? He just sat on his throne and sent some of his angels to dismiss them. This isn't so that we become cocky. It's so that we acknowledge that those who are with us are greater than those who are against us. The reason that I'm okay, even though this feels more and more chaotic and governments are churning and wars are increasing, is because before you get to assail my eternal home, God will put an end to this. So I'm not ignorant of it happening, and I ain't scared of it. I accept that God is my refuge and my strength, that he is the one who brings order out of chaos, and because he will never leave me nor forsake me, I'm going to be okay. You know what? I'm going to skip all this Isaiah stuff because the point has been made. This psalm is a reflection of what happened when Sennacherib came against Hezekiah. And he said, you know, we've destroyed everything. How in the world can you believe that you're going to do this? And he talks to the people. Rabashakeh actually comes and does that on behalf of him. And not at the beginning, but by the end, Hezekiah takes this letter. He got this letter at some point and said, we're going to kill y'all. Come out or you die. God can do nothing. And he simply takes this letter in faith and he puts it at the altar and he says, you are, this is what he says, you are Yahweh of armies. That's what he says. He says, you are Yahweh of armies. Brothers and sisters, today, can you take what's happening and turn it around and lay it at the altar and say, you are Yahweh of armies? Because if we don't, we get real tired, real anxious, and real scattered. Psalm 46, 8 through 11. Come, behold the works of the Lord who has inflicted horrific events on the earth. Sometimes it all gets confused, but just think about things. There's the flood, these things that have happened, that God, even in the midst of chaos, was completely in control of. And then it says what it's really talking about. Because oftentimes it's the downfall of empires that we see as horrific, as this tragic thing that happened. But it says, he makes wars to cease to the ends of the earth. He breaks the bow and cuts the spear in two. He burns the chariots with fire. It addresses both things. First, all the things that happen in the earth, God is Lord over. And everything that happens by the hands of human beings, every power, every principality, human and demonic, is under the sovereignty of God. And because of that, brothers and sisters, it says, stop striving and know that I am God. What does it tell you to stop striving from? Worry. What else? Using your own power. How much of our time is spent? I'm just going to ask. I'm just going to be really clear about this. Going down rabbit holes to try to explain away climate change or to figure out governments, all by our own power to figure it all out, to reveal everything, when all we really need to be going is to the revealer, to the power, to all these things on our own strength, trying to fix everything. There's a lot of wasted time in Christian circles, I'm going to be honest with you. This is Hezekiah's example. You're Yahweh of armies. What would you have me do for your kingdom today? All this stuff is happening. I got to figure it all out. I got to know. I'm going to spend 52 hours on this internet thread. God, here's the data. You're Yahweh of armies. That's your job. What would you have me do today for your kingdom? Do you understand the difference? It's not ignorance. It's not fingers in the ears. It's I acknowledge things are happening, but that you have a purpose and a plan in the midst of it. I want to be a part of your purpose and your plan. People come to us, all these things are being said. Yeah, you know what, you're right. Like, this world is getting crazy. There's no denying it. I'm not going to deny it. But I have safety in the storm. Why do you keep going about it? Because this is what God's telling me to do. He's with me, not against me. He is for me. He will never leave me nor forsake me. And he is Yahweh of armies. He spoke order out of chaos. He's the same yesterday, today, and forever. And my mindset will be also. No matter what come my way, I will stand in the boldness of knowing that God is above all things. The Lord of armies is with us. Yahweh armies is with us. The one who spoke us into existence out of chaos. The one who does not forsake his own. That's how I take this data. And if I strive so hard, I want to show you what happened. I talked about Hezekiah. Before Hezekiah laid that thing down, when it first started happening, when this huge army, this Assyrian army who had laid like waste all of Canaan, right? Nothing had stood between them. It says, now in the 14th year of King Hezekiah, Sennacherib, king of Assyria, marched against all the fortified cities of Judah and seized them. Okay, so he's taken all of the other cities, right? Jerusalem alone is left. That's where Hezekiah is. Then Hezekiah, king of Judah, this is really important. We need to learn this today. I don't feel good physically. There's some things going on emotionally. There's powers. Like, it's not all powers are big powers, like big government powers. My school, like my pastor, whatever. Like, people are trying to, do all these things, and I got all this stuff going on, and how am I going to respond? Well, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to go talk to so-and-so and so-and-so, and then I'm going to get so-and-so against so-and-so, and then I'm going to make sure that this happens. I got a lot of things to do. I got to make sure that my kid doesn't get bullied or whatever it may be, right? And so then I enact all of these things. I have lots of solutions. I am striving. So Hezekiah, king of Judah, sent messengers to the king of Assyria at Lachish, saying, I've done wrong. Be gentle with us, okay? Like, withdraw from me. Whatever you impose on me, I'll endure. Listen to this. So the king of Assyria imposed on Hezekiah, king of Judah, the payment of 300 talents of silver and 30 talents of gold. Hezekiah gave it all to them. Robbed God of all of the stuff in the temple, took away God's glory, did all of these things to appease this guy, only to have him come back and say he's going to destroy them all. Do you know that when we strive on our own to settle the powers that be, it always comes back worse? Oh, I got everybody to stop doing what they were doing. Oh, but they regrouped. And then they came back, and then it was worse. Listen to me. This is what Peter Craig said. Because God controls both history and nature, the chaotic threat which both may offer to human existence may be faced fearlessly, at ease, without striving, trusting Yahweh. If he's Yahweh of armies, then he is Yahweh of Billy Joe Bully. Do you hear what I just said? If he's Yahweh of armies, then he is Yahweh of Trudeau. If he is Yahweh of armies, then he is Yahweh of Biden, Yahweh of Trump, Yahweh of Britain, Yahweh of Sweden, Yahweh of Putin. If he is Yahweh of armies, then he is Yahweh of your principal, Yahweh of your boss, Yahweh of... You got it? And if that's the case, then I don't need to take back power that already belongs to me through my sonship, through my daughtership. I am striving for something, hear me very carefully, A, that I don't in the natural have the power for, and B, in the supernatural, eternal, I already have. I am like that. Like, I know we like to say it, I'm the head and not the tail. A lot of times we say it, we think that's a prophetic word. That is where our reality ends. I don't have to fight and scrap for that here. What I'm fighting and scrapping for is the kingdom. I don't waste my time arguing and getting power. I spend my time bringing people to the source of all power. I'm not going to worry about all these other things. I'm just going to build a bigger boat and get more people in it. I'm going to give you a story and then we're going to finish. October 31st, 1517, I told you I'm being nerdy today. All my history stuff's coming out. October 31st, what's special about that day? Yeah, we call it Halloween now. For the real Christians, we call it Reformation Day. Why do we call it Reformation Day? Because in 1517, a man by the name of Martin Luther, whom, as Pastor Littlejohn referenced, was the namesake for Martin Luther King Jr., nailed 95 theses to the door of a church in Germany. This is what they said, essentially. 36 says, every Christian who feels sincere repentance and woe on account of his sins has perfect remission of pain and guilt. That's the gospel, by the way. Even without letters of indulgence. Because the church, because there was only one then, had started to sell to people their forgiveness. In fact, you could plan. I am going to go kill 3 people. What's that going to cost me? Then you got a letter of indulgence so you could kill those 3 people and be absolved. Martin Luther says, we don't need that. So he posts these in 1517. By 1521, the world's upside down because of it. And they create this council, the Catholic Church does, the council, at a German city called Worms. And they had a council and they called it a diet, which makes it really hilarious because it's called the Diet of Worms, which just sounds disgusting. But at the Diet of Worms, they created an Edict of Worms. And that was that Luther was to be executed by the Holy Roman Empire. Martin Luther is not a perfect person. He's complicated, like all of us. Certainly drank too much beer. Had a few other things going on. But he was a chosen instrument of God's. And when this edict came out, and this is why I want you to know why Psalms are so powerful, Martin Luther looked at Psalm 46, and he wrote this: a mighty fortress is our God. In the midst of the entire world, listen to me very carefully, because that was the world at the time, the Holy Roman Empire. The entire world coming after him. Everything around him shaking. Zero certainty. Even if he had, and he did have some people who were with him, there's no way they could stand against this force. A mighty fortress is our God, a bulwark never failing. Our helper he, amid the flood of mortal ills prevailing. For still our ancient foe, and this is, Luther sees something even in writing this that we fail to see, because our battle is not against flesh and blood. And we put a lot of faces to our problems. But he doesn't say the Pope. He doesn't say the Diet of Worms. He says our ancient foe. who once again, BT Dubs, already got his you-know-what handed to him, does seek to work us woe. His craft and power are great, and armed with cruel hate. On earth is not his equal. And then he says this, did we in our own strength confide? Or striving? Our striving would be losing. If we do this, if I stand against this in my righteous anger with my meager army, we're not the right man on our side, the man of God's own choosing. This is him reading Jesus right into this psalm. You ask who that may be? Christ Jesus, it is he. Lord Sabaoth, his name. From age to age the same. And he must win the battle. And though this world with devils filled should threaten to undo us, we will not fear, for God has willed his truth to triumph through us. The prince of darkness grim, we tremble not for him. His rage we can endure, for lo, his doom is sure. One little word shall fell him. That word, above all earthly powers, no thanks to those powers, he says, remains. The Spirit and the gifts are ours through him who with us sideth. Let goods and kindred go. He's saying, you can lose everything. Family, friends, stuff. Even your life, he says, this mortal life even also. The body they may kill. God's truth abideth still. And his kingdom is forever. Brothers and sisters, we cannot save the earth. I know it's popular. We can't. We can't save our country. We can't preserve and save our comfort. We cannot. Some of us are even in a power struggle tonight with God, right now with God himself. When all of these things rage around us, and when we fight fire with fire, human power with human power, human thought with human thought, human anger with human anger, because that is a common saying, fight fire with fire. We are practicing the highest level of ignorance and arrogance on earth. Cease striving. God's power is absolute. His promises are without fail. Stop being a savior. Start pointing to the Savior with your words, with your actions, with your life. Don't sow any more to this finite futility. Sow to an infinite eternity, to a kingdom without end, to a king who will not yield his throne. Cease striving, fear not, and build a boat and get ready to weather the storm. God, Yahweh of armies, is with us. The God who created us and made us a people when we were nothing is our stronghold. We will inhabit a city that will never shake. And so we are a people who, even in the face of the greatest adversity, will not